Hey there, I'm Tracy Spears, speaker, author, coach, and your host this week for Shift Out Loud. This week's podcast is going to be a little different than the rest of the podcast because I'm revisiting one of my most popular guests from earlier in the season. My guest this week, again, is Pam McKissick, and I want to tell you why I invited her back. After her episode aired, I had so many texts, emails, and comments saying how much they enjoyed the episode, and people wanted to know more about Pam. And Pam, people like they texted me quotes that you said during the interview.
Wow.
I know they emailed me, they thanked me for all of the good advice for the reframing. I had women that were like thinking, "Oh gosh, she was speaking directly to me." I had men saying, "Wow, I hadn't considered that." So, and
Mm,
then I know also I've gotten some thank yous from other people that have started working with you in your coaching business. So I
thank
love all of that. So I love that
you
people have
too.
I know, isn't that great? So welcome to the show. So Pam McKissick, come on in.
All right.
Listen, why do you think that that podcast resonated so much with people?
Well, of course, not having spoken to them, I have no idea, but I hope it resonates with them about the imbalance of male and female energy in our world, which of course we're all living with right now in every aspect of our lives. And also the way women, the idea of a selfless woman has been woven into our society to the point that um, it is the archetype for the good woman, right? And selfless means without a self.
Right.
So the more women don't have what they need or want, but give everybody else what they need and want, then they get a lot of praise. And of course, we're praise junkies, as I've said before, and that's how we fall into that trap. So
What I love is that I like give you a little and like boom, we're deep. And I love it. And but I want you to know that's been the most commented thing. Like I had a client who said, I need to be more of an advocate for women because I surrounded myself with super strong women and I didn't really realize some of the things that were at play. And I loved that that was how that was interpreted by him and not like I think sometimes people will take a soundbite and go, "Oh, she doesn't think that there are any men that are helping." No, 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 you never said that. You're saying it's like if you once you understand this is the game that we are playing and it is a game, right? Like that we're trying to be more equal in so many ways. But once there's been some amazing advocates in my life that have been men as yours as well, for sure. And so I just love that's how that was being interpreted.
I do too. And I think the more we think of it as an imbalance, anything out of balance collapses, right? And we've just gotten completely out of balance in male female energy. And you see it in our politics with the whole war thing. You see it in our education system. You see it in our relationships. We've got to correct that. And men want to correct it too. It puts too much pressure on them when the balance is all on them to perform.
Well, you said something, and I believe I can quote it just because you've said it many times that the silence, turning silence into speaking. We had an exchange about that, and you said, you don't have to be, special to be an advocate. You just have to use your voice, and that's a call to action, right?
That's right. All you have to do is stand up for what you know is right in every instance, on every topic, every day. It sounds simple, but we don't take positions that are mundane because we think it's not worthy of us. You have to be there for every moment. When someone puts you down or someone doesn't treat someone fairly, you have to stand up and voice that in a nice way.
Yeah. Well, you said in a nice way, and I'll say you have to voice it first. If you could do it in a nice way, that can help you, right?
Mhm.
But
So they don't leave.
yeah. Well, listen, I do think there's a lot of us that just don't want to be viewed as hard to get along with, or
Yeah.
don't want us to be viewed as being abrasive in some way. But how do you respond to that? Well, I'll just ask you that as a question.
Well, I think it's innate. We're raised with that. I know I can speak for myself. My parents were always, uh, don't be too aggressive. People don't like that. They're threatened by it. Be careful what you say. You don't want to hurt their feelings. Watch out what you do. They might not like that. So consequently, you come into the world, this little bundle of energy and things to say, and little by little, you're put into a box and a box and a box. And then you get into corporate life, and it's very natural if somebody, particularly a man that you're working for, says, "I don't like that. I'll change it. I'm sorry." You're always apologizing for yourself rather than being yourself.
And the danger of that is it we inherit this social structure that we have now, not because of I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna ask it. Is it because, it's not I don't think it's ill-intentioned men, I think it's well-intentioned women that got, in those conversations and didn't reframe what was actually happening, and when you do that, over time, you are in the social structure that we're in. What do you react to that?
Well, I think women are phenomenal traders. We're consummate traders. So centuries ago, how did you stay alive? Men were bigger, they could kill you. You couldn't, there was no job for you but taking care of them. So you learn to read people really well. And as that comes down to the present, we go, well, if he supports me physically, fiscally with money, he supports me. I'll let him own me.
Mm,
If he supports me and protects me physically, then I'll let him control me.
mm. Those
If
are
he
big words.
if he praises me, I'll let him take things away from me that are for my own good and to be a good woman. And that's the situation women have allowed and men have figured out. Are just actually reacting to our acquiescence.
Yeah. And that's I wanna say that again because 'cause you're using very big words, and some men are gonna go, "No, we're not," but you said that they were just reacting to us acquiescing, and so that's why I do think it's a shared responsibility. I'm not trying to let anybody off the hook here, but I do think there's a softer tone to how we got here that can be more that can be listened to a little bit easier and yet you're either in one side of this conversation or the other, but there's a really big middle ground here. And that's what I loved about the men that I have talked to since the first podcast that were like, listen, yeah, that was tough, but it's true. Like some of that stuff is super true. And I've never thought about it. I didn't know you were having a different experience. And so I think that if we can all just, bring to this conversation, what can we do to be better? So let's just unpack that. What do you think that men can do to be better to create a more equitable experience in the positive? And what do you think women can do in the positive to help?
Well, I think, and I've said this to people I coach, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm on the women's side in terms of teaching them because they are so far behind. Men have lots of support, right? Men go to the country club, to the locker room. They go out on the field and the sporting events. Men have lots of networking and coterie of people supporting them. Women tell me, even when they're elected to the legislature, I have to behave a certain way because I'm outnumbered, and if I don't get invited into the caucus. I don't get included in the meetings. I get left off of things, and I'll never know what's going on for my constituents. Wow. I break apart immediately from what can I do to help men come to the party. Men are sensible, and they know what they need to do. They need to be more inclusive, for one thing, and mean it. But when you're in power, if I say to you, now you're in power, but I want you to share that or give some of that up. Okay, what exactly would that? What's in that for me exactly? I remember my father once. He was a big advocate for the drug and alcohol problem going away. He had experienced it himself, and so he coached and taught. And he once had to coach football players, professional football players, and they make a lot of money. So if you're on drugs and you make a lot of money and you start talking to that guy about, if you quit taking drugs, you're going to feel a lot better. Really? How is that? Because my body's all busted when I get off the field and I have a lot of money and I could buy these drugs. So I'm trying to figure out why you want me to give this up. So any kind of power or money is on that side. Women on the other side just give it up to men. They totally give it up because the fight is not worth it. Take Herschel Walker, right? He is the
Yes, take him.
I mean,
Take him.
yeah, thank you. I take nothing away from his football career. I mean, phenomenal. Love to watch him. He is the poster boy for the worst candidate we've ever had for the GOP, almost the worst. I mean, here's a guy that's got more wives than brain cells. He can't manage the zipper on his fly, much less, a congressional seat. But there will be men who will be influencers in their family who will say to their wives, "Are you kidding me? Do you know what it takes to be on that field at the NFL? Do you know how rough that is? That guy's a fighter." And the woman's going to listen to that. And some women are going to go, "You know what? It's just not worth the fight." And they're going to let him have his way and they're going to vote for Herschel Walker. So this is where I get in on the women's side. Step up. It's painful. Yes, you're going to get a lot of flack from somebody. If it's too much for you, maybe you should leave him. If it's not too much, but you think he's a good man, maybe you two can talk about it. But men are going to have to coach the men. I coach the women.
Well, and I will say that oftentimes when we take on a client and we're across the table from well-intentioned men, there's the perception that there is not an issue. And I always think about and I'm always curious about their wives because I'm like, I know the men that have incredibly strong wives because their sensitivity is set on such a higher dial. And I know some of the men that aren't hearing some of the things that happen or that they're not factoring that in for whatever reason. And I always think there's this moment where people go, "Oh, that's happening to my wife," or "I am seeing that." And I've been a witness to watch some amazing transformations of people in power say, we just didn't know, and since we didn't know, we didn't think there was a problem, and yet the data supported there was a problem, everything happening around them, but to your point, if it's not affecting me, why should I care about it?
Right.
Yeah, and
Not knowing is not an excuse. And I had lunch with a director, happened to be in town last week. And he was telling me a wonderful thing about his daughter. She's going to the Middle East because the women in the Middle East, when they want to swim, are being forced by the government to swim in their full regalia, the full garb, with
mm,
covering the head, and they were drowning and dying, if you can imagine. So she came up with an idea for a costume that would cover every inch of their body, but not, allow them to be drowning. And he was talking about this, and I said, "That is phenomenal, but isn't it awful that that is happening and she is having to find a solution within the context of that, imprisonment," and if for lack of a better word. And he just looked at me like, "Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess, but I think it's just so cool that they're gonna have better swimwear." So So this is where, it's like you see the light bulb kind of like and it's almost for me the light bulb of, "Wow, she's crazy." It's like that.
disconnected from and buried the lead line there, right? That the real conversation is that there's a workaround for something.
Yeah, I had a business partner, male business partner whom I absolutely adore, and I was talking about, the injustice to women and, abortion issues and how women are, discriminated against, and he said, "Oh, I don't know why." In other words, "Why is this such a big deal? Because I was discriminated against. I was skinny as a kid." And I'm like, "Oh my god, where
Yeah.
do I go with this? You're skinny as a kid? Well, beef up, buddy, because people who are lesbians, don't change into heterosexuals overnight, if none that I know of." So, it's that,
Wow.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
Well,
don't you but you'd brought someone on who was more collegiate with both sides, but I just
no, I love it. Listen, the fact that's what I'm saying. Like I was so pleasantly surprised. I try very hard to be in the middle of, kind of anything in the extreme, but I always get such a kick out of this conversation because I'm so aligned with everything that you're saying. Yet I have been the person you're talking about. That is, but I want to be approachable. I want to be relatable. I want to be all of those things. And I do think that the older I'm getting, the less likely I am to do that. But I still want to be able to influence. And I'm gonna throw you a curve because
like you haven't already.
yeah, Cindy Abel, who's a friend of mine, and as you know, is a documentary directs a lot of documentaries and wildly successful. So there's a shout out for you, Cindy Abel. She sent me a text. Can I read it to you?
Sure.
All right, here it is. Hey, I just listened to your podcast with Pam McKissick instead of McKissick, but loved it. Was puzzled by the support for Liz Cheney. I'm wondering how her enthusiastic endorsement of two justices who banned abortion and are part of the dimming of equality that you are talking about factors into that.
That was a really politically correct worded statement because
Of
what she
course.
meant was, "What the shit?
Yeah.
Why are you support?"
It's a fair question. It's a
Very fair.
because and people did comment on that. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you my take on it, but I want you to react to the question
Okay.
first.
I look at every human being as, do they have integrity and intelligence? Anyone with integrity and intelligence can change their mind. People who are ignorant and have no integrity either can't or won't. So I think Liz Cheney has demonstrated that she has integrity and intelligence. She stood up against Trump on the impeachment issue. She's been on co-chairing the January 6th thing. It cost her her seat. She's done some terrible things. She's voted with Trump more than anybody because of her old Republican roots. She's been anti-abortion, anti-gay, but she changed her mind openly on the LGBTQ issue. And I don't say that because of myself. I just say she listened, she learned. She said, "You know what? A family is a family." If she could do that on abortion, yes, I could stand behind her and other key issues. If she can't, obviously it's a non-starter. But I think we've stopped looking at people for intelligence and integrity as evidenced by all the candidates. I mean, we've got Carrie Lake, gubernatorial GOP candidate in Arizona, who posted images of Russian troops on our southern border and how that would help us patrolling the southern border. And then, of course, they always say, "Oh, that was a mistake. It was put up there by a clown or whatever." But I think you have to look at candidates and say, what was the good about them? Where did they show integrity?
I love that answer. Well played. And I'll give you like my reaction to that was, hey, she's better than anyone else. So like I didn't think as deeply as you
Hey,
did.
she's better than Herschel Walker.
But yet, that's also what happens. You start to compare people to the worst case scenario. And so the people that are, kind of just a step below that, they look really good. And I think I love this reminder of what you're saying is that's not a carte blanche. I'm going to hold a sign for Liz Cheney. You're saying,
Mm,
and I agree that if somebody has the ability to have critical thinking skills and
right,
not be so fanatical and so connected to party line, which is a giant marketing campaign, as we know.
right.
And the fact that it's working is heartbreaking because there's a lot of us that are more centrist. There's a lot of us. I mean, listen, I'm a capitalist, and I want to take care of everybody. Like I can think about that there are things I don't agree with either party on everything, and I
Right.
think that's how we're supposed to be. But yet, I think what we're doing now is voting for parties instead of voting for people.
That's right.
And I hope that this conversation can change that a bit in the sense that, politically, let me ask you this question. What do you believe makes a great politician?
A great human being.
What
Be-
else?
Because if you don't have, I'll go back to integrity, intelligence, and that means a great education. If you don't have passion for making the world a better place, including climate change, for taking care of people, even the downtrodden who look like they don't maybe deserve your care, if you don't have that laundry list of things, nothing else matters. Then you get all the way down to, Kim Jong Un. ejaculating missiles across Japan, because he needs the power, or Putin sleeping every night in a bunker. I mean, he's hiding from the very war he's creating. So I think that it's the human heart.
I love that answer. I agree with you. I would add to it too that there's a skill set that comes with being a great politician that benefits both sides. And what we're watching is this idea, this is my experience, this idea that there's a winner and a loser, and you want to be on the winner's side. And the truth is, we all lose and we all win on a lot of those issues. And the person that can carve out a space to say, and I love your explanation of Cheney. I'm going to listen deeply without confirmation bias, without what I just my own beliefs, but try to really serve the people that are part of this constituency. I think that's a skill set that's so undervalued, yet when you watch Michelle Obama and Barack Obama and, reading their books and George Bush and reading his book and some of the amazing politicians, you I never felt like, "Oh gosh, well, I can't like them because they're a different party of mine." I was always like, I love that they're connected to the human experience, and that's what you led with in your answer. But I hope everybody will start to rethink that their loyalty has to be to a party and really look more at candidates. I don't know if that's the best hope for that. What do you think is the best hope for us as we're in this political season now?
The best hope is that people recognize which are Republican candidates in the old style of Republicans and which are the MAGA Republicans. Or because I think these MAGA Republicans and this I call them the Q balls. There's probably,
QAnon.
yeah, QAnon. There's probably 12 of them that may end up making it to Congress. These are, very fringe people who believe that, the government is being run by a satanic cult of child eating monsters. Truly. I mean, that's the literature they put out. So you don't need, frankly, I don't need them anywhere, but we certainly don't need to pay them as our Congress people. That's what people forget. We hire these people, we pay them, they get a lifetime of benefits. What are we doing? We put these sorry candidates up there and then we complain about them.
Well, there's something about this, the loyalty piece. Like there's people that I think look at the party with a loyalty, and I'm not going to say this good or bad. I'm not judging any of that. I'm saying it just misses, and it puts it misses the point, right? Like there's good and bad candidates in both, right? Like there's Democrats. I'd be like, wow, I'd probably vote for a more, a Republican in that case. I'm sure there are. If you're looking at just the candidate, and that's what scares me the most is the people that are voting. We talked about this a bit before, that are voting against their own self-interest. Like we're supposed to vote for people that promote our self-interest, right? For us to go, well, that whole, lesbian thing, that doesn't define me. And human rights, I'm really, I want to be a team player. I want to be like, what? Which describes my 20s and 30s, but but, like, that was some of the really unbelievable thinking that I was in an ecosystem that I thought was so anyway, I don't even know where to take this conversation on that other than, why did you not run for political office? And if you would have, what would you have run for? What would have been the best political office for you?
Well, because I love my ranch and I love Oklahoma, I probably would like to have been governor of Oklahoma because I could have done good for the state, but a governor in the style of Ann Richards, because I think the world needs more Ann Richards. She was delightful. And I think if did you see Holland Taylor play Ann Richards on Great Performances? Oh my God, you'd fall in love with both of them. That was the kind of governor I would love to see, as opposed to these kind of weaselly, you know, grafted, corrupt people that we continue to put in office.
I think you would be a great Ann Richards. Like, I can yeah, that's my experience of you, as well. And I think it's hard. I can imagine this for some of those political figures and I know it's happening. I know they are feeling one way and saying something else because they're scared they're going to lose their seat. I mean, like, when we look back at some of the Republicans even that have, that have stood up against what's happening, Liz being one of them, but there have been many others. I do watch them and I go, I have a lot of respect for you doing that. And yet, if some people do that, they don't, what would they go do? They lose their political career. You just said it. They're being paid a lot of money.
Okay, so I have to jump in here.
Do it. Do it.
If you are willing to give up your integrity for your political seat because you can't do anything else, what the hell are you doing there in the first place? Because people who are worth being in Congress should have enough of all the things we've talked about to get another position, right? So apparently, this is just the fall into the pool and be supported for the rest of your life, and they don't want to lose that position. That makes me crazy. It makes me crazy even in business where somebody says, well, I don't want to buck him because I don't want to get fired because I've got such good benefits. Get out, right? I mean, get out. You're doing yourself a disservice.
Ugh, you're right. I was trying to soft you this a bit, and yet that's the
There's
problem.
nowhere to go but to push the end button and I'm gone.
You have to remember, I stay. Oh gosh, I stayed in a job for 29 years. But so I'm a loyalist in a lot of senses of that. And
You got away with murder
oh well, we're not going to talk about that anyway.
because we're so charming. You charm them all.
That's very kind. I'm gonna my version of that is I worked very hard and I acquiesced. I did. I played the game and I think you're right. I look back now and go, what was the cost of that? Like, I lost my integrity in some of that, Pam. And that's the biggest, that makes me want to be emotional. The idea that I did that. And maybe that's why I'm so passionate about bringing you back on again and again and again because you're saying all the things that I
Well, but it's, we all come to what you're saying is your loss of integrity. We all come to these things over decades. It isn't an epiphany, I don't think, where you just suddenly pop out and go, "Oh, I get the whole thing now." It's your whole life that you're working toward understanding this.
Yeah. Well, thank you for trying to let me off the hook.
Uh,
Let me also ask you this. I asked you political. I've always wanted to ask you this question. Did you have a mentor, and who was like the mentor when you look back and say, "My that was a shift. My life was better because of that person." Who would it be?
well, probably 2 people. My grandmother, who grew up and going to school in a horse and buggy and lived to see people land on the moon. So she had a very broad, spectrum of the world. And she had no time for any men who caused trouble. I mean, that's probably where I got for her in that generation, that was unheard of because my own mother was very men centric in what they needed and what they wanted. My grandmother was like, oh, he's a silly old fool, ignoring. So I kind of, I was shocked by her, but I learned from her. She would come across a place where the bridge had washed out in our country roads, and she'd say, "Get out of the car. We're going to find something and repair this bridge." And I'd be like, "What? What are we going to use?" And she'd say, "You see that old bed thing they threw down there? Go get that." And so she was very much ahead of her time. And then the other woman was my drama coach, who was my high school drama coach, and she listened to me for hours. I grew up in a home with lots of loud kids and, all kinds of 3 generations of people. And you had to learn to study with all the noise all around you. But I'd go to her apartment and it was all white and that beautiful paintings on the wall and quiet music. And oh my God, I just thought she was the Auntie Mame. And she helped me with my path to New York to the American Academy to go to school. So I think those 2 people.
Those are great stories.
And
Wow.
it didn't hurt that I also lusted after her.
Oh,
You
wonder
pay
where
a lot more attention when words in play.
I love that. What were some of the when you look back, books or authors or what artists in any way that were really also inspiring to you?
I really like Joan Didion, um, because it was the first time I kind of locked into the idea of a literature from a really intelligent woman. Um, But I have to admit, I'm not one of those people that selects my favorite movie, my favorite book, my favorite whatever. It's always the one I've just experienced and, love it.
Mhm. That's funny. Yeah. Well, I just watched that Joan Didion, on Netflix, her life story, and I
I
did, I mean, I'm of course bought all of her books now and
mhm.
reading through those because some of those literary giants, I'll call them that, kind of escaped me early on. I'm trying to make up for lost time. Yeah. When I think about also you and mentoring and all that, were you a good networker?
No.
Okay.
In fact, I'm still a terrible networker to the point of 0 networking. I want to, but I just can't figure it out. I mean, I gravitate to a few friends, small group, deep conversation, and I'm just lazy about networking. I don't get it. I mean, first of all, you go into a room with 200 people, let's say, 195 of them you'll never see again, or you'll see one more time. And you have to shake hands and make small talk. And I'm really bad at small talk. So, I like taking Tracy Spears along because she knows everyone. They all know her. She can talk to you about any damn thing until the ears fall off a bat. It's perfect.
That's so funny. Listen, I mean, that's learned. It is learned, and Rachel Wagner, who's actually here in Tulsa. Shout out to Rachel, who does a lot of. She's an etiquette coach, and she's amazing. And she worked with my team for a little bit. It's been many years ago, but like I thought the etiquette that she was going to talk about was around dining, like how to entertain, high paying clients and all that
Right,
stuff.
right.
So we did get all of that. We got this great, kind of experience. And she will do. I'm gonna get a picture a little bit more because it's an amazing business. She will create, the meeting is an actual dinner, and she narrates what's happening during the dinner, where you should sit, what, like what fork is what and all that, as someone that grew up on paper plates, I was kind of fascinated by all that. And so when I think about the biggest thing she said that my team got from all of it, she said that when you walk in a room, step to the left. And I do it to this day. Like I won't walk in, I'll step to the left. And she's like, this is where people make their first mistake. They walk in and they just talk to the first person that they come up to. But the minute you step to the left, I'll do it at a retail store. I'll step to the left and then, scan who are the people that I want to connect with. And I make sure that I'm in those 5 conversations instead of the 195, right? So, I don't know, I'm trying to coach you up here a little bit, but I always think somebody in here I'm supposed to meet, and you don't. You're like, "There's nobody
Yeah,
in here."
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
It,
think
well,
even the
if they come up to me, which I'm always delighted,
yes, you
and
are.
I don't mean that from an egotistical standpoint, it's just my nervousness. I'm shy, oddly, and if they come up to me, then I'm really happy to have somebody to engage with, but I don't I've tried the other where I go seek them out, and it's just too awkward for me.
Yeah. Well, I have something happen where this is just 2 of us talking, so I'll tell you, like, I just blank out. I could, like, forget your name as much as
Right,
like, in those settings, and I know it's hormonal, your prefrontal cortex is shutting down and all that, like, and then I'll like, "Do I know you? I'm not sure if I know you." Like, if I see somebody out of context,
right.
like, if I don't see him in their company, I'm like, "Oh my god, are you my aunt?"
I know, I do the same thing, and that's why Cheryl is, like, the perfect mate. She stands very close to me, and when they approach quickly and catch us off guard, they'll say, "Oh, I haven't seen you since whatever," and Cheryl will say, "Margaret Smith, you look wonderful," and I go, "Okay, Margaret Smith." Like, that's if she ever wants to get rid of me, she just needs to feed me the wrong names.
That is
Uh,
hilarious. Rosemary's does exactly the same, but yet she'll get combative in the moment because she'll go, instead of just giving me the answer, you know her, you've met her 10 times. How come
oh
you
my
you
god.
don't know her? Like, you remember she's her cut, and then she starts telling me the whole story. And by that time, I'm like, oh my God, now
And
I'm
they're getting closer and closer and closer, and you, "Just give me the name, please, just give me the name."
well, that's like one of her superpowers, like
Oh,
the
I know.
networking piece. And I know she is just as nervous as I am in those settings, but she has so much grace and does it so beautifully. So thank you, Rosemary. Shout out to you in that. Oh my gosh. So when you think that, had you been better at networking, I mean, is there something that you're like, I probably missed an opportunity there, or do you look back and go, I did exactly what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not looking in the rearview mirror too much. I look more, I tried looking down. I try looking out now. What's coming, right? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
the
don't know.
answer.
I look back with some regrets for sure. And yet I also know I wasn't if it's meant to be, it'll come back around. I believe all that stuff.
Yeah, I
You
did.
know,
I did too.
it is.
I mean, did you hear Julia Roberts this morning?
Yes.
They're talking about all of it, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm walking down the street one day, and we see this person who my friend knows, and it's a talent agent, and from there, I'm booked into, magnificence."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think what's meant to be is
That's the piece that I connect to on the networking piece. Like my job is to be ready in those conversations and not to be sitting on the couch because I hate, networking. But
so you're the fish, and you're waiting for the fisherman.
I guess, let me think about that. I got to think about that. I would like to be the fisherman pulling in what I want, which is what you're doing. Yeah.
I don't
I don't know. I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to circle back to that. I like it though. I think I am, yeah, I'm probably the smallest fish swimming the
Oh, stop
fastest.
it.
Oh, no, listen,
Stop it. Okay,
no,
no,
listen,
no.
no, listen, hear my example.
Alright.
Swimming the hardest, moving around to get there. Like I'm still a little bit in that, not a small, I'm a big fish. Uh, Thank you for not for thinking I'm playing small, but I'm saying I'm the nimble one that's still trying to get where I'm supposed to be. But I do feel better about the lane I'm in right now for the first time in a long
And
time.
you should because you're doing great work.
Thank you. That's
I
good.
think that, there's a thing in us, people who are type A and who are very aggressive, that we wanna keep moving and doing, even if we don't know that it's right. It's just the fact that we're doing it and we're keeping things in motion. And what I've come to realize for myself is if I look at all the contacts I made and all the things I did, very few of them came to fruition. It's like a psychic told me about something, an event in my life, and said, "You can jump up and down in a bucket if you like for the next 10 years. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to happen when it's time." So, of course, for 10 years, I'm running around, trying to make it happen, trying to make it happen. And she was absolutely right. So,
I got you.
you
Yeah.
know,
This is the be the lighthouse that still on the board.
right. Be the lighthouse, don't chase the boats.
Listen, what is so when you just said that you're looking forward, and I asked you this before, and I ask you this often. What's super exciting for you right now? What's going on that's so exciting?
Uh, I don't know that it's exciting. I think what I'd like to see happen is one of our books, lesbian books, turned into a movie by an accomplished director. I'm through jumping up and down in that bucket. If it comes about, that'll be good. You asked me. Uh, I'm switching topics here, but you asked me about conversations I had had that I wish I had had differently, and I went back through my entire life to try to find out what I should have done differently. And, one interesting story for me when I was in my 20s, I had, of course, was a closeted lesbian, and I was cooking at home, and I threw a frozen taco shell into a hot pan of grease, which, you know, don't come to my house for dinner. And the thing blew up, and grease hit me in the neck and made a big mark on me. So when I went to the office the next day, I was in my 20s, guy in his 50s who was a broker for ad business walked by and he said in front of people, "Hey, is that where your girlfriend bit you last night?"
Oh,
Of course, HR in those days was, non-existent. And I was so young and so paralyzed by that remark. I mean, it went to everything, that I was hiding and in my being. And so later I wrote him that we had no, text. I wrote him a note and told him I thought it was inappropriate and hideous and, blah, blah, blah. So he contacts me back and he says, "Pam, something terrible has happened. An idiot has written me a letter and forged your name." Okay, now I've been gotten twice. right?
Wow.
And I'm so young and I don't know what to do. So what you do when I just filed it away as a big hurt. But over the years, I learned to reach back and say, what could I have done with that? So oddly, 10 years later, I'm in LA producing a 2-hour show. And the manager, who is a mobster out of Vegas, contacts my edit bay and tells them that he's unhappy with the show. He wants it completely reshot, which would cost millions of dollars, and we're not going to do. And if not, he's going to send someone to get the master tapes. So I'm not in the edit bay at the time. And my people call me and they said, oh my God, there are these two thugs here. And they're trying to take the masters out of the studio. So I go running over there. By now, they've gotten them out and closed the doors. So I call this manager, the thug, the mobster in Vegas. And let's call him Benny. I said, Benny, this is Pam McKissick. Something terrible has happened. Somebody came into our edit bays using your name and said they were going to take the masters. And we've had to call the police and they want to know what and who this was. And I had to give them your name. I know you would never do anything like this. So I wanted to give you a heads up. So, of course, we heard nothing more. And maybe they were just bored with us. But that's the thing I like to do, is to park my hurt and admit that the guy that did it to me, that was pretty clever. An idiot's using your name and forged your signature. But I was able to keep that and then pull it out to my benefit.
Oh my gosh. That is not the direction I thought that was gonna go, and Pam McKissick today, what would you do? Let's just play that out. You get that note. What do you do with that now, today?
Oh, I'd probably stuff it up his derriere. I mean,
Yeah.
I would not be pleasant.
Here's what
Yeah.
I always think, "Well, I wonder where that guy is now. I wonder what we could do. Let's go slash his ti" I'm your slash your tire friend.
Well, he's probably dead. He was an old alcoholic, and of course, he had 30 or 40 years on me at the time. But that, of course, was the way men were able to talk to young women in those days because nothing was gonna happen to them.
Well, I'm gonna agree. It was well played by him and well played by you in that same, situation. I love that. You have so many of those stories though, like, people just have no idea the stage that you've played at and, all of the really big stuff, but they will learn more as you and I will continue to have these
You
conversations.
expose me.
That's right. That's right. I'm trying. Listen, because you're a bad networker, it's putting a lot of pressure on me, so
I know.
listen, if people want to find you, and I know that you are available for coaching, and let's just say this. A lot of times people hear executive coaching and they think, well, I have to be the president of a company. Not true. If you are anybody that wants to be better, you want to up your game, you want to be better at, being authentic or figuring out what you want or playing at a higher level, you are the exact right person for a lot of people out there. So how can they find you?
They should call Tracy Spears.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what they should do, and I will connect you. That's good. That's
That's
good.
right, right? Isn't that fair?
That's fair. Yes, I don't mind being your agent. That's a short list of people I would agent for, but you're on it.
Thank
Yeah.
God. It'll do whatever you need in recompense.
Okay. Well, you said something that's kind of interesting. I have two really top-notch directors that are following the podcasts, the Shipped Out Loud podcast. One of them was Cindy, and Trisha, as you know. So it'll be interesting to see. I love that you're putting that out in the ether. There's a lot of wicked smart people connected listening in. So I think it would be super fun for you to have one of those books and somehow in a screenplay. Is it on is it a play or is it a movie? What do you see?
I think it's a
Okay.
movie.
I
I'm
like it.
working on a play because, of course, theater is my background, but uh, a movie.
Are you sad you were never like on Broadway? So you
You
tuck it.
know, when I left Oklahoma, never wanting to see it again, except in my rearview mirror, I went to New York at the age of 18 to the academy, and it was just the greatest experience. I had been in theater for a long time. I was going to be a Broadway star. And what happened is I did not look like Christian Chenoweth, who's the, beautiful
Amazing.
little blonde ingenue. I looked more like a character actress. So, and Danny DeVito was in my class, and he was more of a character guy. And so the people at the academy said, if you can just hold on 20 years, I know. Can you imagine telling a kid age that? 20
No,
years. I wanted to say, aren't those people dead? And
that's
you'll be a
funny.
fantastic character actress. So as a result, I'm like, are you effing kidding me? And I auditioned for the radio job. It was the first 5 women on radio and anywhere in New York, and lied about my age, which I never lie, but I really wanted this job. And that became kind of the voice piece, and it got me wonderful career moves because I could stand up, I could speak, I could, do all these different things that helped me in business. But yes, I miss the theater. It's wonderful.
You would have been great. Now, had you been a good networker, you'd have been hanging out with Danny DeVito. Because my thought is, if Danny DeVito's making it, I got a shot here.
I know you would have made it happen, right? I would be
I
in the
don't.
wings understudying Ethel Merman.
You
Look swell.
you would have listen. You would have been amazing at
Uh,
anything that you wanted to do. But it's our
thank you.
loss,
Thank
of
you.
course. Listen, I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for making a little time to jump on here.
I love you too. Thank you for inviting me.